And we are live. Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Coffee and Perspective with Jay Steen. Today, I'm going to be speaking to a gentleman who I've known for quite some time, and he has developed and grown into a sports coach, a athlete, and what I think is fair to say, entrepreneur. So please put your hands together virtually for Mr. Lawrie. What's up, dude? How are you?
Yeah, no, very good, thanks, eh?
Good.
Pretty
You said
chilly in South Africa, though.
yeah, but you said you just came back from a swim.
Yeah.
Training season, or you're always in training season?
Yeah, I think obviously with lockdown, we were pretty much kept in isolation. So we weren't really able to swim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it has been really cool getting back into the pool. I'm actually swimming out at an estate here in Port Elizabeth. It's called Royalston. It's just outside PE. Beautiful place. It's a 2-lane, 25-meter indoor heated swimming pool.
Nice.
And it's got double-story gym. It's very, very cool.
Good, man.
I wouldn't mind living there.
And also, amongst all this training that you're doing, I've got to say, of course, we're friends on Facebook and that. Congratulations on, I can still call it, you're a fairly new parent.
Yeah.
So
I know.
How is that
going on 11 months already, eh? So tomorrow, actually, he's 11 months.
How has it been? I know that, okay, obviously you've had the COVID period, so your training wasn't as intense with traveling and whatnot. But how has it been juggling between how you used to live with from a training point of view to parenthood?
Yeah, I think that my training has changed a lot. I am very, very fortunate because we've got an amazing support structure. And Carla is also she's incredible. I think she was literally born to be a mother. Obviously during lockdown, everything has changed for everyone around the world, basically. So it is a little bit different, but for me, when I started getting more seriously into my coaching and stuff like that, my training also kind of took the back seat a little bit. And I've actually been picking up my training again now, recently, during lockdown and stuff. Carla, she is very, very supportive, and she knows if I need to wake up in the morning early and get on the bike and, ride with the squad, whether it's outdoors or on Swift, then she understands that it's my job in a sense as well. But it definitely has been different. But we really have been lucky, Chase. He sleeps like a champion. And he's really, really well behaved as well. So
Possibly he's playing it cool now, so he can give you.
Yeah, that's honestly that's literally what we're thinking. We oh my gosh, what's coming?
It easy and then
yeah.
Sorry, so for those of you watching that are not aware, Richard is involved in the triathlon space mainly, from what I'm aware. Just correct me.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've been speaking as if people know exactly what training you're doing, but you got into the triathlon space. How did it all start? How did you get into triathlon, or did you maybe start with just running and then you enjoyed cycling and then you decided to put them all together? Or just give me a brief of how did you get into the triathlon space?
So I was about, I think, 20 years old, and then I used to actually be quite a gym junkie. So I used to be in the gym, lifting the weights, and I also played hockey for 14 years, and so I was always very, very passionate about sport, and I still am. And I always actually wanted to make a living out of sport. That was my dream, And I just, at that age, I just came to a little bit of a crossroads, and I was flip, I actually need a little bit of a lifestyle change. And I think I actually want to get outdoors more and not just spend time indoors in the gym all the time. So I was very fortunate then to be invited by one of my friends, Gareth Wright, who you know, to actually go and marshal at one of the triathlon events here in Port Elizabeth. And yeah, I was just like, whoa, what is this? It just looks insane. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, geez, also like swim, bike and run. And yeah, after that, I was just like really taken aback, and I was like, geez, well, let me give it a bash and see how it goes. So I started with something called duathlon, which is run, cycle, run. And the reason I started with that was because at the time when I started, it was winter. So there was no swimming races. And then, yeah, like, I just got hooked, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I actually won my first race, like ever, that I did. So I was like, okay, well, geez, there might be something there. So let's just explore. And I mean, once that bug get bitten, it was just like, yo, game overs.
So the triathlon in order usually is the swim, then the cycle, then the run, correct?
Yeah, swim, bike, run.
What I know that you, just from prior days, used to be pretty strong in the pool at swimming.
No, well, I mean, that was breaststroke.
What is?
Trust me, bro, there's no comparison.
And the pool, I guess, and not the ocean. What at the moment is your strongest out of the three, in your opinion? So not according to general stats or whatever, but what do you feel personally? Not what
yeah.
What do you feel?
No, definitely my cycling. My cycling is definitely my strength. Yeah, and swimming is my least favorite.
Your least favorite or your weakest?
I would say I'm like average at all three, but then my biking is like above the rest.
Okay.
But the reason why I might do well in races and stuff is because I am average over all three.
Sure.
So generally what you find is that with athletes, they normally have one or two disciplines that like really struggle. So for me, my swimming is not bad and my running is not bad, but my biking is strong.
We can make
so
isn't it also just from my short periods that I've watched the Ironman and all those the corporate triathlons and all that, isn't it also because the swimming is very weather dependent, no? So
yeah, very much, yeah.
No matter how fast
and people get scared, like of the sea and sharks, and I mean, especially living here in Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay. I mean, you know that this is called the Windy City, and if the east blows, then the chop is really bad, and it can get quite rough out there. But for me, to be honest with you, I'm actually a better sea swimmer than what I am a pool swimmer.
But why? Because you can feel, what's happening with the currents, you can read it somehow, or?
I'm a little bit of a leg sinker. So in the pool, there's no salt, so there's no buoyancy. And then when you race in the ocean, there's salt and you're wearing a wetsuit. And that elevates you like massively. So I draw my strength from my upper body. And that's very good for triathlon because you actually try and minimize, especially over the longer events like Ironmans, you try and minimize the damage to your legs in the swim.
Sure. So you've got on the run. So I remember you very clearly around end of high school, start of varsity, probably, where you were quite into like more the weight training side of things. More the physique side of things. And then I do remember your transition into the endurance sports, where I think besides the activity, you can't be that muscular sitting on a bike. So I know that you lost quite a bit of muscle mass, and then you were working toward the speed. And then out of this, you've done pretty well. I think I watched you once in a full Ironman. I think it was probably your first.
That was 2017.
And you might have to just correct me, you placed fairly well in your age category.
I won my age category.
Won your age category.
And then, that was Ironman South Africa.
Yeah.
And that was in 2017, and that was my first Ironman event. And yeah,
I've got to pause you there as something came into my head. I think it was you that you put out a statement or post to say that people kept going, "Oh, you're ready to do a full Ironman," and you said something where you're like, your body has to be ready to be able to endure the full Ironman.
Yeah.
So just for those that also, like me, not too educated, what do you mean that you will rather wait to be a certain age or for your body to be able to do the full Ironman? Why is it not smart to do it at 18 or 19 years old?
I think the biggest thing, Jace, that like people don't get is that like health should always be your first priority. And too often people become so performance driven that they actually like neglect their health. I know that sounds like weird, but sometimes people might starve themselves to try and lose weight, and they might overtrain, so they try and do too many hours, and obviously that causes you to break down your body. You become very like mentally fatigued, and for me, like, it's all about timing and it's all about natural progression, and as an athlete, your body actually only really is at its full endurance capabilities like between the ages of, I'd say, 30 and 38 years old. So very often you have guys come into the sport and they're like 22, and they're like, oh my gosh, Ironman, like, I want to do it. They throw everything in and they start training for this massive event, and they got no idea what it actually takes to prepare for the event. And then they train themselves to an absolute pulp. They overtrain, they rock up on race day, they're mentally fatigued, and then they don't have a good race. So then their experience with the race is negative. And very often you'll find that those kinds of athletes come in and leave the sport quite quickly. So for myself, it's all about longevity. And, when I started, like, I want to be able to do the sport until the age of like 60, 70 years old, if possible, if my body allows me that. Because I enjoy the lifestyle, and so for me, my goal was I needed to do 10 half Ironmans, or I needed to be over the age of 26 before I did my first full. And when I was 25, I'd already done more than 10 half Ironmans. So I was like, do I feel like I'm ready to take on the full, not physically necessarily, but also mentally, because it's not the race that's hard, it's the training that's hard. Preparing for the event is hard. And that's where all the sacrifice comes in. And trust me, it's hectic. Like, you sacrifice a lot.
So that the reason for waiting is not more for the physicality, because your body is not ready for the endurance. Is it more experience and the mental?
I would say both. I would say both. Definitely both. Physically, if you prepare your body for an Ironman, and you know what you're getting into, and you do the amount of training that is required for you to be prepared for the day, then you will be fine. And you can actually do that then at age 23 or age 24, no problem. But you've got to be willing to commit.
You were 27 by the time you did your first, or how old you?
Yeah, I think I was 20. I think I actually turned 27 the day of Ironman.
Oh, hectic. Okay.
Yeah. I turned 27 the day of Ironman.
So you had done quite a bit of prep and halves leading up.
Yeah, I done 17 half Ironmans. And I mean, a half Ironman is also quite a big event in terms of, duration and volume. And I had really prepared well for my first Ironman, so I put in the work. I was mentally and physically ready to race. And that was it. I'm a really big believer in preparation. And I believe that if you prepare for something, there's no reason why you can't, do it successfully.
and you say this is also what fascinates me. So whenever I watch the fulls, it's not your typical athlete look that comes across. So when I watch the people who come out of that ocean, there's all ages, all shapes, all different sizes. It's not your typical lean physique, a little athlete that's coming out of there. And then I go, okay, well, let's see. Then you get to the run, and you get those ones that you don't even think can run a 5K, and they're doing
they're running a marathon.
They're doing fairly well already on their run in the Ironman. So for sure, I think besides, like you said, the preparation and the nutrition and the experience, this is the main. This will fail
massively
for the body usually.
There's a lot of athletes that are out there that have got the physical capacity but don't have the mental capacity, and those. So for me, it's in a sense more towards mental capacity than physical capacity. So what that means is that, like, if you had to do a 50-50 kind of ratio, I'm probably 60 to 65% mentally stronger than what I am physically talented.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
And first of all, what's the highest status or level of race that you've competed in up until today?
The biggest race that I've competed in is the Ironman World Championships, and that was in 2017 as well.
Was this the one in Kona?
Yeah, that's in Kona. Yeah.
All right. And I've also heard then that one that's a tough race, no doubt. Things in the climate. Tell me what goes through your mind, whether it be in that race, whether it be in a full Ironman, where everyone will have their own little, ebbs and flows, like their peaks, real down times. I've heard a lot where the people go, it's when you don't have the crowd, you don't have spectators, it's just an open road where your brain can swift in all different directions. How do you personally, and also your coach, so how do you also try to help prepare your athletes mentally for those moments where you do take the dip, you don't have a crowd, you might be cramping, you start second guessing yourself. How do you personally, and also how do you train your athletes mentally to try step over those dips?
I think again it all comes down to preparation and training. You've got to be willing to take yourself into those dark places in your training, and you've got to learn how to get comfortable with that dark place in your training. You'll never really be comfortable, but if you've never been there before and all of a sudden you get whacked in a race, it's going to be very ugly. So I think a big thing is obviously physical preparation, making sure that you can actually go the distance, because that gives you a sense of confidence knowing that you've done this before and that you can do it. It's just a matter of getting out of that place, because there is ebb and flows, as you mentioned. Sometimes you feel fantastic and sometimes you feel horrible. So that is probably the biggest and most important thing about an Ironman is knowing when to hold back when you're feeling great, so that you have the discipline. And we hope that our athletes never really get into that kind of dark place in the race, but it does happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Isn't it just one of those things that no matter how much you train, there probably will be some point where even if you a champ, you leading the race, I'm sure the race leaders have their moments of, the down. They just obviously experienced enough to try get themselves out of that hole.
So I'm actually very lucky because I've had both experiences. My first Ironman, I was in full control the entire race, and I did not once feel like I was going to blow, or like what they call implode. And that was a really great race, and it was a well executed race for me. So I never really went into like very dark places in that event. But then when I went to Kona and I was actually on the island and I was training on the island, the Monday before the race, I actually hit a car on the Queen K Highway, which is like, that's the main like highway that the athletes cycle on. And what that meant then was that like I wasn't able to run the whole of the week before the race. So in the race, I then got off the bike and I was actually in a really good position. I think I was then 9th in my age category. And my goal was to then run a 3 hour 20 minute marathon. I ran a 3 hour 14 marathon in South Africa. So the goal was realistic. But because I had not run the entire week before the race, my body basically what they call over tapered, which means that I rested my legs too much for the run. So by the time I got into the run, I had absolutely nothing in the tank. And my body just didn't want to cooperate. Like I didn't bike too hard, nothing. I was actually feeling good off the bike. But my body just didn't want to go. And that was by far the hardest day of my life. Like I've never had to go through anything as hard as that. It was my
or because mentally and physically,
like it was so bad mentally.
Did you get through it though? I'm not aware.
Yeah, so what actually happened then, and this is what I'm going to get at now, is I had to then like make decisions, you know, and I trained like for 6 months throughout winter, and there was a lot of sacrifice, and you know, so I started tapping into those kinds of things, you know, thinking of people back home, you know, thinking of the time away from like, you know, spending time with Carla and my family and some of my friends because of my training, and my mind was literally just telling me like, just pull out, like you don't need to do this to yourself. And that for me was the hardest mental battle I've ever had to go through. And yeah, I had to make decisions within the race. And I actually then, you know, thought, okay, well, my goal of going under 10 hours is completely out the window. And I'm probably going to run well over 4 hours in this marathon. I was literally 3 kilometers into the marathon, which means that I had 39 kilometers to go. And it was my second ever marathon. My first ever marathon was Ironman South Africa. And I already had nothing in the tank. So I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. This is just like ridiculous. So I actually had to adopt a new strategy. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't make it any easier, but basically what I decided was that I was going to run between every single aid station, and I was going to walk the entire aid station. And I did that for the entire 39 kilometers left. I ran between every aid station, and then I walked. Every aid station, I took in my nutrition, I used my sponges, ice blocks, all of that kind of stuff, to keep my body's core temperature down. And then, yeah, I noticed that every aid station that I went through, I lost 1 second per kilometer. So if I went into the aid station at 5 minutes a K, I would come out the aid station at 5:01 minutes per kilometer. So if I could just keep running at that constant speed between the aid stations and lose that 1 second every aid station, I could still have a respectable run. So I ended up running a 3:41, and I did a 9 hour 39, I think. But it was, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that I was still able to pull that off. But it doesn't change the fact that it was like by far the hardest thing I've ever had to endure. And I also didn't get what I was going there for. So, but that's life. And I mean, that happens, you know, and as an athlete, you're going to have disappointments. Like it's inevitable. And you need to learn to deal with those kinds of disappointments. But it was still something that I needed to process after the race.
But once going through something like that, where okay, in this instance it was very physical, that battling first.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you feel just that extra bit stronger if you have to go into something else or not?
Yeah. I think that it will. I mean, I'm a straight shooter, bro, and I speak open and honestly. And that was so deep and dark that it actually did damage, mentally. And I just couldn't imagine going back into that, and it took a while actually to recover from that, to be honest. And I'm now starting to feel like my mind is getting a lot stronger again. I'm really able to push harder in training. When the going gets tough, I'm able to push through and endure. Whereas the mental fatigue that I got after that race, it sat with me for at least 1.5 to 2 years. And I almost became, in a sense, a little bit afraid of that place again. And every week we tap into those places as athletes. We're going deep in training. And I mean, it's like I say, you've got to become comfortable with that place. And I became, that place for me in Kona was very uncomfortable. So I did struggle,
But I'm glad that you got through. I'm very glad that you got through it. And I think you got through it pretty well, even with the time and all that. Talking about going into the dark place and in your training, we'll tap into what you're doing now with coaching and everything. As you can see, it's Brandon in your cap. But now during the lockdown period, I see it became even more popular with Zwift training.
Zwift,
Okay, so just briefly explain to everyone watching who's not aware, I am, but whoever's not aware what Zwift is.
Yeah, so Zwift is actually a online platform which is used for training, and it's actually a virtual world. It's absolutely incredible. Technology in the world just keeps blowing our minds. And Zwift is just it's just one of those things that is really, really cool. And they've done an incredible job. And basically, what it is we use smart trainers, which are Bluetooth compatible, and they use power, so watts. So if I push down, and let's say for instance for a minute, I'm pushing really hard, and I'm holding 400 watts for 1 minute, then that 400 watts would be translated into Zwift, and then my cyclist in the virtual world would then ride according to the power output that I'm pushing. But it literally takes everything into account. It takes your weight, it takes your height, it takes your gradients on the different courses, your uphills, your downhills, your flat roads. You can even do races. And what's really cool is that you can cycle with anyone, anywhere in the world. As long as they've got an internet connection and they've got a smart trainer in Zwift. So Zwift was actually a savior for us as coaches during lockdown. Obviously because we were confined to our homes, so we couldn't actually train outdoors and we couldn't train with anyone. So Zwift became the big thing, and
it's quite social from what I'm aware. You jump on your cycling buddies or whoever, and you can actually see each other riding, on the screen.
Yeah.
Am I correct? I've seen one.
So I'm actually a very big believer in indoor training, and fortunately for us, we were actually doing a lot of Zwift riding before lockdown already. So we already knew the platform really well, and we knew the software. So it was quite easy for us to kind of, adopt that strategy going into lockdown. And some mornings we literally had 70 riders on a Saturday, in the virtual world.
Incredible.
All cycling together. We've done some races. It's really been a lot of fun. And it's really, I would say if anyone needs a little bit of extra mental stimulation when they're training indoors, then Zwift is definitely the way to go. And what's nice as well is that you can also run on Zwift.
Where it connects to the treadmills, or
yeah, so you can connect it to a treadmill, or you can actually connect it to a foot pod that you put on your running shoe, also via Bluetooth. And then it actually picks up the speed that you're running on the treadmill, and then it will actually then your avatar in Zwift will then run, let's say, at 5 minutes per kilometer.
Sure.
So it's pretty crazy, yeah.
Really? That's incredible. And I know that you've got what you call the pain cave, which is your garage converted into. For those who don't know, he puts pictures up quite often and videos where he's got his bike in front of a big plasma screen, and that's where your it is. So it feels like you probably in the real world, in the virtual world. And that's your sweat cave and pain cave. And you call it your pain cave because that's the place where, obviously now during lockdown, you take yourself into those dark places.
100%.
Yeah, with music, what's your stimulation?
Yeah, I really enjoy my music, and I listen to like a lot of EDM. I really like Tomorrowland and Ultra Music Festival, and those kinds of concerts and stuff. And that's what gets me fired up. So yeah, when I'm really bleeding in a training session, then I generally tap into a little bit of EDM, and that helps me get through sometimes.
All right, let's jump into last but not least, your Matrix. Am I pronouncing it right? Matrix Multisport.
Yeah.
So this is a company that you founded.
Yeah.
Did you found it by yourself, or you have a partner that created it with you at the start?
Yeah, I've actually got a partner in with me. His name is Carl Mangan.
Oh, nice.
Very, very good friend of mine. Also lives here in Port Elizabeth. And the two of us actually started Matrix together last year in June. And we've just really been loving it ever since.
So for those that might be interested in tapping into one of the sporting aspects, the cycle, run, swim, or the virtual, what if I'm someone that I'm not, an athlete, I'm not super fit, I can train, I'm fairly okay, but I'm not super fit, and I'm interested in, let's say, just improving my cycling. What do you provide me as a aspiring athlete that I don't want to do it competitively? I just want to do it for fun, keep fit, enter some competitions, but I don't want to become a world champ.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that people need to realize, and I think very often, like, people, when they look at a squad like ours, they think that you almost need to be at a certain kind of level in order to be part of the team, which is really not the case. I mean, yes, we do have a lot of very, very good athletes, that are super competitive, and we've got some professionals and stuff like that. But the bulk of our squad actually makes up those athletes that have got, health as their main priority, and staying in shape, maybe doing their first Ironman, or wanting to better themselves, as people, or beat their personal best time from a previous race. And I'd say 70% at least make up the bulk of our squad. So, we really do work with athletes of all levels, and it doesn't matter, like you said, now you just want to improve your cycling, you want to get fit, you want to stay in shape, you don't necessarily want to be competitive. That's perfectly fine. We work with a lot of athletes like that. And I think the biggest thing with coaching is it's definitely the accountability of having a coach, because it's not then as easy just to be like,
it's like
today. So there is that accountability, and obviously the structure, which is also really, really important, and the structure is not determined by the coach. The structure is determined by the coach and the athletes. So it's a relationship that is formed, and the coach then asks the athletes all about their lifestyle and figures out what is going to be the best structure for them, and that's how they work it out. So not all the athletes are on the same programs, and everyone's doing different training hours and different sessions on different days. And yeah, I mean, I'd say, it definitely can be beneficial for anyone. Literally, like whether you've ridden a bike or you haven't, like, yeah.
Because they're tapping into your expertise and your knowledge in what to do. Plus, then, like you say, having the accountability.
Yeah, I mean, even I've got a coach, and that's what I do for a living. So, I coach athletes, and I honestly can't coach myself. Like, I can't.
Because you're accountable to someone else.
I need accountability as well.
Yeah.
And that accountability is massive. I mean, like today, I got a busy day, and I'm like, I've got to swim, and like my body's quite smashed from the weekend. Like maybe I must just leave the swim, and then I'm like, no. But my coach is like gonna check, and then
gonna see on your profile.
It's not that like he's a drill sergeant and he's gonna like, shred me broken for missing a session. But it does give you that little extra kick, that you need to get to those sessions that you're not keen for.
Yeah. No, 100%. Anything from a personal trainer to even if you're gymming and or riding in the morning, you wake up at 5:30, you're going riding by yourself. Weather's not so great, you might just lie in a bit more.
Exactly. 100%.
For example, that's meeting you at a point, you don't want to let him down, and probably even if he feels the same way, he doesn't want to let you down. So you both meet there, not knowing that you both actually didn't feel like it.
You both weren't keen. And I can guarantee you that you both wouldn't have been keen either.
100%. That's I've had this experience as well, where I feel like I get there, my training partner's like, I didn't feel like it. I was like, oh, neither did I, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to let you.
And those are the best sessions.
Yeah, where you just, we're here. Let's just put our head down and go. Cool, man. Well, let's do a quick plug here for those who might be interested in just having a side trainer, whether it be virtually or in real person, because I think you mix it up. You do real life as well, plus follow everyone on the virtual side. So for those
mainly real life, actually.
Real life, but of course I'm sure you've changed your structure. COVID and everything that's happened. So for those that are interested, where can they find you or your page or your website or your coaching staff or?
So the guys, they can go and have a look at www.matrixmultisport.com, or they can go check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Matrix Multisport. And you'd pretty much be able to find all of the necessary information on either of those platforms.
And a quick question: do you have different coaches, or is there only like you and Carl, or how does your coach?
We've got 8 coaches. And we've got 3 coaches that live in PE, 2 coaches that live in Cape Town, 2 coaches that live in Johannesburg, and 1 coach that lives in Pretoria.
Okay, so I'm guessing depending on where you live, you'll be assigned that coach.
Well, it is up to the athletes at the end of the day, but I do always offer the athletes, that live in Joburg, the opportunity to train with a Joburg coach. And I would always recommend that, definitely.
Well, I'll pop all of that stuff up after we're done. I'll throw all those links up so that people can find and follow and connect with you. I know that you're always busy on WhatsApp with the athletes because they've got... I browsed through your website the other day, actually, when you posted on the team. And I see that everyone's got their WhatsApp contact details. So that's like the immediate personal connection, I guess, that you can have with your coach, which is great. Cool, man. Anything that you want to add before we wrap this up? Any thoughts, any important points that you think are viable for people that might be watching or listening?
I think that it's been a very cool chat, and I'm sure that we could go on for days. But I really do appreciate the time, and I think from my side, there's nothing really more to dig into.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think the main.
we could go on for ages about
Yeah, we can go on for ages.
about your journey, because like
Yeah,
we were swimming together since 7 years old.
yeah,
So I'm quite familiar, but there's a lot of things that I've really missed along your journey and your career, which are interesting. But I thought
yeah.
let's just hit the
No, I think it's great, Brian. I mean, we've definitely touched on, the most important things. And yeah, like, I'm really just glad that everything is slowly but surely getting back to normal, after this crazy time that we've been in.
Mm.
And I think just to, say to everyone out there that might watch this, like, I know it's easier said than done, but just, try and stay positive and, keep looking after yourselves. Life is going to get back to normal. And yeah, you've just got to, adapt to the circumstances that we're in, for now. And I think that that's something that we've managed to do fairly well, with Matrix and with the athletes, and it's paid off big time. So yeah, I think just, stay positive. And I don't know what it's like over there in Budapest, but it's still pretty decent here in South Africa. And sometimes I really just have to pinch myself and be like, geez, is this even real? Like, what's been going on? But yeah, I think
I appreciate you, and I see you growing, not only as a person and an athlete, but I see you growing in your entrepreneurial side with the business, which interests me a lot, because many years ago I wouldn't have put you as a entrepreneur, yeah, to someone. But of course, you let your passion lead the way, rightfully so, and of course, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and hard work have gone into what you're doing. So yeah, I'm super happy with where you clearly at, and I wish you and Cole, don't want to leave him out, but I wish both of you a ton of success going forward with Matrix, especially. And I hope that you, and I'm sure that you're going to be changing athletes and just normal people's lives quite often with joining.
We hope so.
I'm pretty sure that you do. I've seen what you do from afar, and I've even seen you at some events, and you people are very supportive. You're there, you're watching, you're guiding. So keep it up. Keep it up.
Shot, Jace.
Good. Cool, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this. A nice little catch up and chat with my good friend, Mr. Richard Lawrie. Please, at the end, go share this with whoever might be interested, family, friend, cousin, whoever that might be interested in the sport or just want to get a little bit more fit, especially after lockdown. And go check out, I'll drop all the URLs and the links below in the chat. I appreciate you. And for everyone else, stay healthy, stay safe. Until next time, this is Coffee and Perspective 007 with Mr. Richard Allen Lawrie. Cheers, everyone.